The federal government is making it easier for people who are deaf or hard of hearing to get mental health support. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is now available to people who use American Sign Language. The Department of Health and Human Services says that callers can access the hotline using a video telephone. People can go to 988lifeline.org and click the ASL Now button. September is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. An industry entertainment veteran is hosting a podcast that focuses on mental health. And it features some familiar faces.
I get depressed. The bad thing about it for me was, here's the mighty DMC that everybody think is invincible, and even I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't know where to go for help. I didn't know. And the whole thing with, being hip-hop and being a strong black male, I was ashamed to tell somebody I was going through that.
Yeah.
They're going to think I'm weak and vulnerable. So long story short, Shanti, I became an alcoholic, suicidal, metaphysical, spiritual wreck who didn't know what to do with these feelings.
That, of course, is Darryl McDaniels, who hip-hop fans know as DMC, the legend from the group Run-DMC, talking about his battle with depression and suicidal thoughts. He is one of the celebrity guests who share his story on the Meebo podcast. It was created and hosted by the talented Shanti Das, who has a compelling story of her own. Shanti joins me now to talk more about it. Now, she's not only the brains behind this new podcast, but she's also the founder and CEO of Silence the Shame Incorporated. She's also a very generous philanthropist. I want to thank you for joining me on the show, Shanti. I want to start with your mental health journey. I don't want to give it all away because we want your viewers to connect online to get the whole story, but just briefly, tell us a little bit about your story.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. My dad died by suicide when I was just 7 months old, and it was really difficult for our family. And so we didn't really talk about it. You know how it is sometimes in our communities. We bury a lot of those feelings. So fast forward, I had this really high-paced industry job, head of marketing for a bunch of labels. And once I started dealing with my own stress and anxiety, I had to unpack a lot of those layers of trauma, and it led to my own suicidal ideation.
Wow. And some people would say, you got the successful life, you got the great career, you don't have any glaring problems. We would never think you'd be the person.
Yeah. So, Mark, sometimes, depression, it doesn't have a face, right? We can all be high functioning, as I like to say, but still really hurting so much on the inside. And that was it for me. I was still moving and going forward with my life, but I was depressed. I was anxious. I really wasn't wanting to get up in the mornings. I was withdrawing from friends and family. And those are some key signs that we need to look out for. And so it wasn't that I wanted to die, Mark. I just wanted the pain to go away. And unfortunately, I didn't really know how to cope with my anxiety and my depression. And I got the help that I needed. I called the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-TALK, now 988. And my pastor, Dr. Raphael G. Warnock, now Senator Warnock, also helped me through that journey.
Wow. And one of the things I love about you is that you turn your pain into power. You decided to create a mental health podcast to reach the masses and help them on their journey. When did you come to that realization? How did you come to that realization?
So absolutely. So it's called the Meebo Show. So it's called the Meebo Show, and it's really about mind and body health and wellness. So we talk about mental health and physical health. But during the pandemic, Mark, I realized that people were at home and we were all like trying to figure out how to cope, and we were in our heads and in our feelings. And so I started interviewing a lot of celebrities during the pandemic in 2020. And so fast forward a couple of years later, I thought, why not start my own show? Because I think people are still struggling. We are facing so many different things in the world right now, from, police brutality still in the Black community, floods and fires and global warming and so much that goes on. I say life be lifing. And so we need to talk about it, and we need to share our own experiences so people can still move forward in a healthy way.
Absolutely. We absolutely need to do that. Life be lifing is an important thing to realize, that none of us are immune. Life is going to bring challenges, and part of it is about figuring out how we can navigate them and having the tools necessary and handling those tools or locating those tools rather without shame. That's why I love your foundation, Silence the Shame. Talk to me about that and why that's another important piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. So as you said, it's important that we all learn that we have to silence the shame. And so my organization exists to empower and educate the communities on mental health and wellness. And so we try to meet people where they're at. We've seen in recent years that youth suicide rates are up by 30% from 2018 to 2021. And in 2022, we just saw a report from the CDC stating that suicide rates overall for everyone were the highest that they had ever been. And so it's so much work to be done. So we try to educate communities, push them towards resources. We don't do direct services, but we do a lot of community conversations, and we get folks to share their lived experiences, because that's the one thing about suicide. People, sometimes there's this misconception that if I talk about it, then maybe that means I'm going to think about completing suicide or attempting suicide. And that's just not the case, Mark. The more we can put the information out there, the more we can provide resources to the community, the more hopefully we can save lives and get people, to really #live their best life.
I love that. Our best lives. Everybody, the show is called Meebo. The Meebo Show, Shanti's podcast, is an important piece of the puzzle. We absolutely want you to check it out. Shanti, I want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank you for being brave enough to share your story, not just with me, but with the world. It means everything. And again, you can check the show out on YouTube at The Meebo Show. We want to take this time to connect you, our viewers, to some resources as well. There is help available 24/7 for anybody who's struggling with suicidal thoughts or feels that they need any type of mental health support. You can call the number that's right now on your screen to reach the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. You can also call or text the number 988.